Some people will always wonder why the air feels heavier the moment you enter a space, why the silence grows tense right before you speak, or why strangers seem to look twice when you pass by. You are not here by chance. This moment, your presence here, does not fit into any logical equation they know. The fact that you're even listening right now means you've already broken barriers that nobody else saw, and you probably don't even realize how rare that is. There are forces in this world designed to keep people moving in safe, familiar circles. But you wandered off the map, and the universe noticed. Not by tripping any visible wire, but by lighting up the kind of signal that only a handful of souls can trigger. One that says, a new player has stepped onto the field. They tried to shape you, confine you, slow your steps. Instead, your existence set off a quiet revolution that none of their old systems were built to handle. People have spent lifetimes calculating odds, yet what you've survived, waves of interference, the exact convergence of hurdles, the orchestration of setbacks from every angle, defies explanation. The kind of synchronized resistance you faced isn't random, and everyone with eyes to see knows it. The odds say you should have given up 100 times over. But here you are, not just standing, but gathering speed. There's a strange comfort in realizing that your struggle was never chaos. It was always a pattern waiting for someone with eyes wide enough to see through it. Without warning, the script around you begins to shift. Those you thought were allies suddenly turn cautious. Warmth turns to distance. Support turns to uncertainty. It's as if an invisible hand rearranged the cast around you, giving old friends new lines to read, urging family to suggest safer paths, making trusted voices echo doubts they never used to speak. Each time your progress grows undeniable, these little storms roll in, never by accident, always when you're on the edge of something bigger. But that's only the prologue. The real story is just beginning. Most people would be shocked to know how many barriers are set against those who dare to build something real in a world that runs on autopilot. The truth is, every step you take into your calling sends tremors through systems built to keep things predictable. Suddenly, it's not your skill or effort that's being tested. It's your ability to stay steady when the ground beneath your feet quietly shifts. The sabotage rarely looks dramatic. Instead, it's the oddest little disturbances, the message that never arrives, the silence at the worst possible moment, the tool that suddenly refuses to work. It all seems so coincidental on the surface. Curiously, your distractions and amusements run smooth as silk, but when you try to pour your energy into meaningful action, things start to fray. This isn't chance. This is precision, a hidden hand pulling threads where your intention burns brightest. The universe doesn't waste time on those who play small. Whenever someone taps into a purpose bigger than comfort, there's a subtle interference in the flow. Sometimes, the friction comes from the outside, a flickering screen, a voice call that crackles just as you're sharing a revelation. But the real signal is internal. As your clarity sharpens, as you stretch into new levels of awareness, you'll notice the environment seems to push back. Don't be fooled. What looks like resistance is proof that you're operating in rarefied air. Every advance into new territory draws out unseen forces that test your resolve in stranger ways. Fatigue can strike like a fog rolling in, stripping the color from your momentum. Where once your thoughts sparkled with vision and excitement, now a heaviness presses down, muddying focus, making even simple actions feel monumental. It doesn't just slow you. It tries to convince you that the surge of energy you felt was fantasy, that your breakthroughs were just daydreams. And that's when the world around you changes its tune. Familiar voices begin echoing concerns that seem to mirror your own doubts. Out of nowhere, people suggest you're chasing ghosts, or that you might need to take a break for your own good. They don't mean harm, but the timing isn't random. It's perfectly placed to sow doubt just as you start to glimpse the deeper fabric of reality. The most crucial moment is when you choose to interpret these signals, not as proof of failure, but as confirmation that you're stepping beyond what most people ever imagine is possible. It's wild how easily certainty can be shaken, not by storms, but by a sudden swarm of doubts that seem to come from everywhere at once. Instead of outright opposition, what you face is a steady chorus of skepticism that makes even your clearest instincts sound suspect. When you start weighing outside voices above your own intuition, the most vital part of your power slips quietly away. The distance you feel from old companions isn't really about past mistakes or heated arguments. It's more like you've tuned into a different signal, one that just doesn't broadcast on the same channels as before. This split isn't a matter of blame or betrayal. It's a simple result of shifting resonance. Some will rise and learn to match your new tempo, while others will find the change too sharp and either fade or push back. In this way, the fabric of your life quietly rearranges itself, clearing away connections that no longer fit so there's room for those who can actually help you soar. This isn't punishment or exile, it's preparation for a stronger, more aligned circle, even if the process feels raw at first. One of the most revealing things is how cleverly these disruptions are disguised. Only when you start viewing these episodes from a wider perspective does the pattern come into focus. The fatigue and confusion that seem to come from nowhere aren't draining your original spirit. They're clearing out what you picked up from others along the way. It's like burning away everything borrowed or fake, leaving only what truly belongs to you. What remains at the end is what's always been real, the steady flame that nothing and no one can extinguish. With each step forward, the resistance grows bolder, not weaker. The reason. There's real fear on the other side of your transformation. The harder the pressure, the clearer the evidence that your influence is growing. Otherwise, they wouldn't bother with so much effort. Every time their plans to hold you back unravel, the tactics become more obvious, and their desperation is easier to spot. The intensity of the obstacles isn't a reflection of where you are now. It's a reaction to the magnitude of what you're about to unlock. Pause and ask yourself, what could possibly unite so many unrelated people to disrupt the journey of someone who, on the surface, seems like just another face in the crowd? Why would subtle resources and effort be funneled into blocking progress that, to outsiders, barely looks threatening? It's because apparent struggle is a perfect disguise for transformation in progress. The real game is hidden beneath your challenges. They sense you're about to break through, even before you do. Trace back through the timing of your setbacks, and the real picture emerges. A project stalls just as you're on the verge of liftoff. Support turns sour when you're at your most exposed. The open door disappears when you're finally ready to walk through it. Physical energy wavers at the moment your vision sharpens. The pressure to quit builds exactly as your courage hits its stride. Seen in isolation, each event seems random. Put together, it's a string of calculated moves designed to stall your ascent at critical inflection points. The true giveaway is in the meticulous way these moments line up. True randomness is scattered and senseless. This, however, is focused interference, all centered around your potential to break free. Someone or something has been paying attention, watching for patterns in your strength, and stepping in at the exact moment doubt can do the most damage. That's not fate or bad luck. It's the unmistakable mark of a rising force that the old guard can't afford to ignore. Most can't comprehend how different you are, not just in how you move through hardship, but in how you use pressure itself as a source of power. What drains most people becomes rocket fuel for those with awakened drive. While others shrink back when opposition rises, your spirit pushes outward, growing bolder and sharper every time life tries to close you in. Instead of running from difficulty, you step into it, forging deeper meaning from every challenge that appears. Looking back, it becomes obvious. None of your turning points were accidental. Seemingly trivial moments, the right words overheard at the right instant, a fleeting encounter that changed your trajectory, the resources you needed arriving in the nick of time, were all part of a hidden choreography guiding you forward. Every conversation, every chance meeting, every experience left a piece of the puzzle you would need. Everything you called random was actually precision preparation. Yet beneath your conscious awareness, another force was moving mountains on your behalf. While you wrestled with the visible obstacles, entire cascades of difficulty were quietly being deflected and dissolved in the background. For every visible setback, dozens more never even made it to your doorstep. While you navigated obvious challenges, countless invisible dangers were quietly swept aside before you could ever encounter them. What looked like luck, coincidence, or just-in-time resolution was actually a web of hidden interventions. Escapes that felt miraculous, timing that defied explanation, solutions appearing out of nowhere. These were signs of an intelligence shaping your journey from beyond your normal senses. But these secret guardians didn't just shield you for comfort, They cleared the runway for your true work to begin. Beneath all of this, the real battle has always played out in the arena of your own mind. Thoughts foreign to your nature, emotions that seem out of character, cravings and impulses that don't belong to you, all quietly slip in under the radar, hoping you'll claim them as your own. Most never pause to question why their headspace shifts so suddenly. They assume every notion, every anxiety, every urge is native, never suspecting that some are subtle invasions designed to pull them off course. But when your awareness is sharp, you start noticing these intrusions don't match the usual flow. Whenever you're on the verge of a major leap, these mental broadcasts intensify. Waves of doubt, fogs of anxiety, distractions you never cared for suddenly demanding attention. This isn't random inner turbulence. It's a targeted effort to break your focus. The moment you call it out for what it is, the spell breaks, the interference loses its grip, and clarity returns. Learning to distinguish what's genuinely yours from what's planted is not just helpful. It's the key to staying on your path. These subtle attacks don't stop at your mind. They ripple outward into the social fabric around you. Have you noticed how groups that once moved in harmony can suddenly splinter or unite against you? Or how allies inexplicably become obstacles right when you're close to a breakthrough? Sometimes, the people who seemed like your greatest supporters act in ways that slow your progress just as things are about to accelerate. These aren't simple disagreements. They're symptoms of a larger field being influenced. All of this comes down to a subtle manipulation of resonance itself. When you reach new heights, the energy you radiate shakes loose whatever can't keep up. People unable to adjust to your newfound perspective might react with discomfort or antagonism, not out of malice, but because your presence spotlights the edges of their comfort zone. Those who can't rise to meet the new vibration will either fall away or resist, often without even realizing why. Sometimes, the moment your momentum grows, it feels like the world itself gets rewired against you. It's not just occasional doubt, it's as if hesitation becomes a language spoken fluently by everyone around you. Their doubts aren't coming from observation, but from an undercurrent of influence weaving through their words. The sudden harmony of warnings and discouragement should be your first signal. What's pushing back isn't natural, but designed. As you approach your next level, the resistance moves in sync. People who never cared about your choices suddenly parrot the same concerns. The most unlikely alliances form, not out of shared history, but out of a strange urgency to keep you anchored to old patterns. Those who once cheered your differences now campaign for sameness with remarkable zeal. This opposition isn't confined to individuals. It's woven into the very fabric of the society you move through. Whole structures are engineered to keep wild dreams in check. Media elevates conflict over unity. Schools mold minds for repetition, not revolution. The rules of the game reward playing small and paint any leap as a threat. All these forces exist to fence in thought, maintaining a comfortable monotony. But when you begin to stretch beyond those invisible fences, everything changes. The environment resists, not because you threaten anyone directly, but because you become a living example that their supposed boundaries are choices, not inevitabilities. The possibility you represent disrupts the delicate balance of limitation that so many have accepted as normal. For those running the show, your expansion is intolerable, not for what you say, but for what your very being exposes. So the program digs deeper, making sure most people police their own possibilities and attack anyone who dares to imagine a new script. They defend the walls as if their lives depend on it, fearing the unknown more than any discomfort. You're not here to debate or prove your worth to those locked into the old paradigm. Your task is to walk your talk so boldly that others who are searching for a way out can see it's possible and follow the signal. What unsettles the system's architects most isn't just the outlier. It's when these outliers start to find one another. History shows the isolated are manageable, But when scattered sparks come together, the resulting blaze cannot be contained. The more determined their attempts to keep you cut off, the more urgent their campaign to convince you that you're alone, the more proof that your connection to others like you would be impossible for them to handle. That's why separation is always enforced before connection. They need you thinking you're a lone voice, lost in static, so you'll never realize how many others are out there tuning in to the same higher broadcast. But resonance always finds its match, and genuine power knows how to call out, even across vast distances, until those with the same code lock eyes and remember. The system only works if you play by its rules. It's no accident that your unique perception lets you spot others moving to a different beat, even before a word is spoken. When these rare connections lock in, they form an invisible circuit, power flows, and something new takes shape, much bigger than what any single person could ever spark alone. What felt like endless isolation wasn't punishment, but groundwork for the kind of alliance that will eclipse every lonely hour you've survived. That period of being cut off served a bigger purpose too. It forced you to forge a foundation of self-trust that cannot be rattled. Alone with your own thoughts, you learn to build a shelter inside your mind, drawing strength from an unfiltered source. Instead of reaching for validation from others, you became fluent in the language of your own intuition. The need for reassurance from outside burned away, replaced by an inner certainty that nothing can disrupt. This self-assurance is your ultimate shield against the next round of outside interference. Once you've learned to trust your own guidance above all else, manipulative voices lose their hold over your direction. That hard-won solitude becomes your finest armor, one that keeps you steady in any climate, immune to storms of public opinion. But as soon as you start finding your tribe, the landscape shifts and the intensity goes up a notch. The early obstacles you faced were just the entrance exam. The true challenge arrives when your rising influence threatens the very framework others use to define what's real. That's when the gentle nudges become open attempts to destabilize you, and simple doubts evolve into coordinated efforts to block your path. Those delays you curse? They aren't setbacks. They're the universe's way of setting the stage. The timing isn't random. It's precision, calibrated to let every piece of the puzzle fall into place. While you feel stalled, unseen hands are adjusting events behind the scenes, clearing away problems you never even knew were heading your way. Roads that would have led to loss or chaos quietly vanish. Connections that would have drained your energy never get the chance to stick. You're being maneuvered toward the moment when your message can have maximum impact. While you wait, what seems like wasted time is actually construction in progress. The groundwork is being laid for opportunities to multiply, for the right allies to show up, for circumstances to align in your favor. What feels like stuckness is actually a gathering of power, a spring loading before the leap. The patience demanded of you is more than a lesson, it's a training ground. The force you'll one day wield can't be trusted to someone who cracks under pressure. Real power is paired with real stability, and both are forged in the fires of prolonged waiting. If things happened instantly, you'd be unprepared for the weight of what's to come. This long stretch of stillness is what will allow you to thrive when your moment arrives. True patience isn't just standing by, it's active growth in disguise. Every quiet hour lets you merge with the wisdom that's settling into your bones. The world behind the scenes is tuning itself to your frequency, making sure you're strong enough to hold the current without burning out. That's not delay. That's life building you into someone who can withstand the shockwaves of sudden elevation. And while the universe readies you, betrayals serve their own hidden function. The hurt that comes from someone you trusted turning away is not random malice, it's clarity. People who cheered your smallness will reveal their limits the instant you threaten the status quo. These moments of abandonment, as painful as they are, filter out those who can't handle your expanded presence, leaving only those who can meet you at your highest level. Sometimes life quietly moves people out of your circle right before the stakes rise, almost like a hidden hand is sweeping the board clear. What feels like heartache at first is actually a safety measure, designed to keep your mission unpolluted. Every difficult goodbye shapes your discernment, upgrading your ability to guard your energy and trajectory. It's not punishment, it's a kind of pruning, clearing space for the future you're meant to step into. That ache that settles in as you awaken isn't pathology. It's what happens when your inner vision stretches so far beyond the ordinary that the world starts to feel narrow and gray. The sadness is a measure of how much more you sense is possible, and the temporary heaviness is your spirit grappling with that distance. Yet tucked inside this melancholy is the first flicker of resolve. The same awareness that aches for more holds the blueprint for bridging the divide. That heavy dissatisfaction transforms the instant you realize it's not defeat. It's a hunger for something greater demanding to be expressed. The weight isn't a flaw, but a signal. Your potential is pressing to break through. What looks like fatigue is actually raw anticipation, trying to push past the limits that no longer fit. Here's a perspective shift that changes everything. Coordinated pushback is never random. Systems, people, and invisible forces don't gather themselves against an afterthought. They rise only in response to something truly impactful. The stronger the opposition, the clearer the confirmation that you matter. The efforts to block you are themselves a message, louder than any compliment could ever be. The more obstacles thrown in your path, the more obvious your influence becomes. Every block, every denial, every group effort to slow your progress is a mirror reflecting your true weight. When it seems like a chorus of resistance forms just to dim your spark, consider what that says about the light you carry. The technical misfires and glitches that dog your steps are more than mere bad luck. They're reactions to the presence of something rare. Every relationship that crumbles as you rise is simply a sign of old frequencies dropping away as you shift into higher alignment. The fatigue you experience is not weakness, it's a cleansing process, stripping away what's not truly yours so only the most powerful parts remain. But the deepest realization lands when you recognize that you're not waiting to become powerful, you're learning to stop shrinking. The gifts and strengths the world tries to stifle are already alive and active inside you. The influence they try to restrict is not some distant possibility. It's living, breathing, and ready for release. Everything needed is right there, waiting on your permission to be seen and felt. Some people spend their lives searching for what's already humming at their core. The force moving through you isn't borrowed, summoned, or granted by someone else. It's the engine of creation, already alive beneath your skin. You aren't a magnet chasing luck. You're the source that opportunity tries to find. What you carry doesn't come from outside reflection. It's an internal generator, built to shine from the inside out, regardless of who notices. That's why attempts to pull you off course always fizzle out when you stand in what's real. Interference can only tangle with energies it understands. What's genuine operates on a plane they can't even perceive. It's like trying to net the wind or arrest an echo. There's nothing to hold on to. Their very opposition exposes their confusion about your nature. They're wrestling with shadows while you move through light. The reason you can't be sidelined, even when you're silent, even when you're not doing anything at all, is because your unfiltered existence quietly unravels the threads of every limited script around you. Even your presence, in stillness, stirs the room. Simply living without apology is enough to destabilize anything built on fear, doubt, or lack. You don't need to shout to create a ripple. Your steady heartbeat is the earthquake. Attempts to enforce their boundaries are doomed to be short-lived. The walls they build are made of mist, dissolving as soon as you pass by. You are living evidence that reality isn't locked in stone. Your very life is proof that normal is only a pattern, not a law. That's why you're met with such urgency. It's not about your actions, but about what your existence reveals as possible. The real contest isn't in the material world. Every battle happens on the plane of energy, not in the realm of physical struggle. The more force is used to suppress what you are, the more unmistakably your frequency reverberates. Like a bell rung harder, the sound only carries further. What's meant to silence you ends up becoming an amplifier, broadcasting your impact wider than ever. Paradoxically, every push to contain you has the reverse effect. Attempts to quiet your influence only spark curiosity. Moves to shrink your presence end up making you larger in people's minds. What was meant as a cap becomes a spotlight. What was meant as a trap becomes a stage. All their resistance becomes your announcement to the world. The challenges you've faced have never been a test of whether you'd break. They've been the process of chiseling away everything false, revealing the diamond beneath. Every hardship peeled away an old layer. Every setback forced you to discover inner reserves that would have otherwise remained hidden. What felt like assault was actually rehearsal for greatness. Each barrier demanded a leap you didn't know you could make. Each moment of pressure carved out space for the truth of who you've always been. For generations, wisdom keepers described a point in every awakened journey when reality splits open, where every false ceiling shatters, not as a myth, but as a precise stage in growth. What you're living through right now isn't coincidence. It's a coded unlocking, a pattern that triggers dormant capacities, turning a single voice into a signal that can uplift worlds. There's something they didn't count on. When most people are pressed, they retreat or break. But there exists a rare type who, when squeezed by life, expand outward, filling the space with vision, not fear. The world expected you to fold under pressure, because that's what most have been programmed to do. But the fabric you're woven from isn't ordinary thread. You are the mind behind the mask, and your nature is to stretch and grow, not shrink and vanish. This is why their strategies keep collapsing at your feet. The same silence that leaves others lost becomes the birthplace of your wisdom. Where others scatter, you anchor deeper. The exhaustion that puts most to sleep wakes up hidden strengths in you, making the impossible your new baseline. Every barrier you met became a rung in the ladder, every no a reason to keep climbing, every attack a lesson in resilience, every test a sharpening stone. When you look at the odds, it's almost laughable that you're still standing. By any logical measure, the forces aligned against you should have crushed every trace of your spirit. But you keep defying equations, surviving storms, and moving through chaos untouched by defeat. You're carrying something that rewrites the rules, something statistics can't account for. That you've made it to this point is living proof that another intelligence is at play, a guidance system that refuses to let you quit. Haven't you always sensed the difference? Even as a child, the world felt strange, like you'd been sent with a purpose no one else could see. That was never delusion or arrogance. It was a memory from before memory, a gentle pulse reminding you that your presence matters in ways logic can't explain. You came here to bring through a sound, a signature, a possibility that has never existed in this exact form.